you see a look in a kid's eyes when they do their first hop or their first cartwheel, and it's something that really makes you get up in the morning.
Our systems make us good and our people make us great. When did that philosophy come about for you?
You were at the park, remember, with your child, and you saw a kid jump up on the monkey bars and they fell and they went off to the side and they never did activity again. That's what Delta's about. We're about helping children. A brand is what people can reasonably expect from you. So if you put a logo, that's not a brand. It's a visual identifier. But your brand is what people can reasonably expect that you will deliver. If you look at it, AI, how should I promote a gymnastics club? It takes the average of the world and gives you exactly the average, which puts you right in the red ocean. The worst person you can lie to is yourself. And I find people do that all the time.
We're here today with John Mitchell, one of the founders of Delta Gymnastics, one of Australia's largest privately owned gymnastics clubs. John, what did Delta look like on day one? Like, what was the gap in the market that you saw that made you decide that you wanted to jump into business ownership? And how old were you then?
I was 21 years old. And I suppose the thing that made me jump is I got really frustrated that I was working with these coaches who are fantastic coaches, and they would coach through and they'd finish their university degree and they'd go and get a real job.
Yeah,
and gymnastics coaching, it was nothing like a real job. It was something you did, part-time. It was something you did on your way to doing something else, and they were all passionate. But what I decided is the change we wanted to do is we wanted to help people have a full-time commitment. We thought kids deserved that. We thought it was a really an important thing for kids to move, learn, and grow. So to do that and have a full-time approach with that was one of the biggest changes.
That's a big thought to have at 21. Why gymnastics?
Yeah, it's a good question. And we've talked about this a lot, that it could be any sport. It could be any endeavor. I have this theory for children, especially, is that to become something, you've got to overcome something. And gymnastics is this amazing thing. It overcomes gravity, and it overcomes fear and it overcomes challenge. So we are always looking at how to challenge children in a safe environment, which helps grow their sphere of influence. Their personal sphere of influence. They can change. They build confidence because they feel more confident when something was hard and they overcame it. And what we do is we make sure that our teaching and our environment is designed in such a way that helps kids move through those steps.
It makes a lot of sense, especially like obviously my stepdaughter does gymnastics at Delta as well. Good choice, which I love. And it is a big part of that is that repetition and having to keep trying things over and over and over. And then you get that small incremental improvement over time, which obviously helps you in all aspects of life, not just sports. But one of the things I wanted to know is why did you start a gymnastics business? Did you and your wife already have, was you your wife then?
No.
Were you doing gymnastics, or did you just pick gymnastics and decided that's the business for us? Or
yeah, interesting. I was my dad got involved in the local youth and rec club that had a bit of boxing and a bit of gymnastics, and I went and did that. And then most of our family did that. And Dad's point of view was that, you could do football or you could do soccer, but gymnastics would give you an overall development. So we went off and did that.
That's pretty forward thinking.
It was pretty forward thinking, yeah. And he thought that was a good thing. And then he became the president, years later. And then he got out of it. My big brother became a head coach of that club. I started coaching when I was 14. And by the time I was about turning 17, I became the head coach. When I was still at school. It was a little tiny not-for-profit club. But I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the whole process of teaching children. As an educator, you see a look in a kid's eyes when they do their first hop or their first cartwheel. And it's something that really makes you get up in the morning. So I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's cool that you've had the opportunity to have that progression through, like doing the thing, coaching the thing, and then now making a business over it, which I've noticed for other people we've chatted to, tends to be the natural progression for a lot of people when they're starting their business. What did the start of your business actually look like? Did you just decide one day like, oh yeah, we're going to coach this, we coached a little bit, and then you got your own place? Or what was that progression like?
Yeah, well, it was a bit different. It was a not-for-profit, the same not-for-profit that I grew up in. And I got to a stage when I was giving them a proposal to say we should open up another venue here. And then I had a group of parents that were the committee, and they asked me to leave the room. I went, not very happy with this.
Yeah.
And when I came back in the room, they said, we think that we should open up this next venue, but we don't think it should be us. We think it should be you. So
Really?
they actually prompted me to do it because, they didn't want the risk. They didn't want to do that. And they could see I was passionate about it. And they didn't want to hold me back. And they thought it was great for kids. So they were actually the impetus. They said, you should do this. And then we came up with an arrangement where I paid off the equipment over the next 3 years. And I took over the business when I was 21.
Wow, that's an incredible opportunity to be given. I think there's these moments in life where things could deviate into very different ways. And that definitely feels like one of them. One of the things that you have said to me in the past when we've done filming days and stuff is that our systems make us good and our people make us great. When did that philosophy come about for you? Was there a moment in time that became apparent, or is it a gradual thing?
Yeah, I think two things dictated that. One is I've always been a reader or a learner. Not great at reading, good at learning. And I read a book called Michael Gerber's The E-Myth.
Okay.
And he talked about the technician, the manager, and the entrepreneur. And I think when he talked about it, he said that a lot of people start off being the technician and then they fail when they become the manager or the entrepreneur. Or you get people who are incredible at delivering a great service, but when they move out of it, it doesn't get replicated. So it's not a business. It's just a personal service. And I think that was most evident when we went to our second venue. Okay. So in our first venue, I was in there coaching. I had a great team of people working with me. We grew up together effectively. And it was like, I tell my staff, but they're all too young, in Cocktail, where Brian Brown and Tom Cruise are flipping bottles in the bar.
Yeah.
And it's not just serving drinks. They're putting on a show.
100%.
And when we're working with kids, it's a part of that is that kids learn best when they're having fun. And I wanted it to be this great environment, energetic. And when we went to our second venue, it just didn't work.
Okay.
It was really hard. So we still had a bit of a system, but that really taught me that we needed to have our systems really embedded. And that first part of the system was getting a curriculum. I think we were probably the first people in Australia to have a curriculum that went across everything. So usually when people still do, when they do coaches courses, they teach them how to do a lesson plan.
Yep.
And every coach does their own lesson plan.
Right. And no consistency.
Yeah, no consistency. No, everyone keeps learning. I had this old coach once to me said, John, if we could take the chip out of the old coaches and put it in the young coaches so they didn't have to keep learning. And that really stuck with me. And I said, right, what if I could use the experience of our best coaches to feed that into the youngest coaches so they were delivering great what, and then they could learn how to deliver great how. And that meant they had to understand who they were coaching. And those what, how, who really changed our viewpoint about how to teach gymnastics. So, and all my friends who have gone into second clubs or third clubs have failed because we have a strength of character. We're really good at delivering ourselves. We can notice over in the corner that something's happening.
Yep.
It's really hard to do that when you're looking at a venue that's 6 kilometers away. And now I talk about it, how we have to be people-focused and data-driven. So we've sort of gone the next step where we deliver these great systems, but I can see using Net Promoter Score, I can see something's happening in that venue, under fives classes, that they've just dropped off a bit. So I want it to be that every kid at Delta, our whole focus as a point of differentiation is that we want to have in every hour with every child and every coach in every venue, they get an incredible hour of gymnastics. And we used to call it the hour of power. And then it morphed later on into our BHAG as we wanted to deliver 10 million hours of great gymnastics. But to do that, we needed to look at what are they going to deliver, how are they going to deliver it, who are they delivering it to, what are the operational systems behind that to make sure that every child gets an incredible experience every time.
For people who may not understand, what is a BHAG? And secondly, how did you come about that and why did you land on the 10 million hours delivered as your BHAG?
Yeah. So BHAG comes from Jim Collins. I think it was in Good to Great, which is a book he wrote back in the early 2000s. And a BHAG, what he looked at in Good to Great is he looked at these companies that were tracking similarly and then they split off and one was good and one became great. And he looked at what are the attributes of those companies that became great. And one of them was this concept that they had a future goal that inspired everyone to give of their very best voluntarily because they were hunting down this goal. Mm-hmm. So I love the idea. And we looked at different thoughts. And usually when you're looking at a BHAG, you're going, what's the industry stuck? What do we care about? What are we focused on? And you look around to see what is it that can inspire us. And when we started this, we went back and looked back 20 years. So we were probably 8 years ago, whatever, that we did this. And we went back and tracked how many hours we thought we delivered. And it was about 3 million hours at that time. And we looked at it, and then we designed our software where every time a child's name is ticked off on the roll, it goes on the clock, and the clock's in every venue to look at where we're at. I think I looked this morning, we're at 6,804,000 hours.
So is that delivering from live data? Yeah. And the clocks just update constantly with, that's awesome.
Yeah. And it was about a focus. You get people like Red Balloon, Naomi Simpson, they wanted to deliver 1 million gift experiences.
Yep.
And that single focus. And for us, the focus had to be something that was going to create our Delta experience. So that hour of power became the BHAG, that hour of power. And so one of the things, like I remember one of our coaches who came just when he visited, and he said the reason he came to Delta is that I was talking to him and I was coaching a group, and then a young, group of 6-year-olds came over, and I went, girls, it's off. We're off bars. It's our time, gone. And he said he had not seen that at any other club. The fact that we cared about every single group, and we cared that the 6-year-olds were getting just as much time as the level 10s with me. And that was what is important, is we cared about every child across every hour in every gym with every coach. And so that became it. That became a focus of where we're going. So we track it. We track it on a daily basis. We track it on a weekly, monthly, quarterly. This year our goal was to hit 500,000 hours. So we're ramping up.
Yep.
We're not quite there. We won't quite get there. But our whole thing is that, and this is where it fits in, is a BHAG, if it can drive your behavior, it makes a difference. So we look at every hour counts. And so we look at Net Promoter Score of what people think about us. We also, if children aren't attending, we know we can't help them grow up. Mm-hmm. So instead of where most businesses, whether it be swim school or whatever, if someone doesn't turn up, they go, they didn't turn up. We're on the phone. If kids don't turn up, we know that they're more likely to stay with us. They're more likely to say more to their friends.
Yep.
They're more likely to get a benefit from what we're delivering if they attend. Mm-hmm. So if we can get them attending more, so we track attendance rates, and we keep on trying to build, because if they're with us more, they'll feel more confident, and that'll be good for them.
It's really interesting you talked about the Net Promoter Scores. When did you actually implement that, and how frequently are you doing that? Because that's a survey just gauging the temperature of your customers, I assume.
It comes from the book, the one question survey. Mm-hmm. And so the answer is probably 2017, 2018. Okay. We started doing it, and we started doing it where we sent out a Survey Monkey survey. Okay. And we got all the results in, and we put it in Excel, and we worked it out, and we used it. Mm-hmm. And I think on our first survey we hit like a 22. And so
how does the scoring work?
So Net Promoter Score is that the concept is if someone gives you a 9 or a 10, they are raving fans.
Yep.
They're out there telling everyone about your business. Mm-hmm. If they're a 7 or an 8, they're ambivalent. They're going, Wild Kinds is okay.
Yep.
And if they give you a 1 to a 6, they're actually out there saying, I tried Wild Kinds and they weren't very good. Mm-hmm. So they're detractors. So the maths is you get 1 point for a promoter, -1 for a detractor, and you get neutral 0 for a 7 or an 8.
Okay.
So generally speaking, any score above it, so the scoring goes from -100 to +100. Any score above 0 means generally they're positive. If you get to 50, it's considered excellent. If you get to 70, it's considered world-class. So today, Apple's sitting at 71. Google is up there at 69. And we're really excited. So we started our first one at about a 22, I think it was. And we ask a question, is that if they give us a 9 or a 10, they say, what is it you like about us? And we make sure we do more of that. And if they give us a 7 or 8, we go, what is it we could do better? And then we work on those.
So the only question you ask them is to give you a rating?
We give a rating. We do one follow-up question.
Yeah,
one follow-up question to make it easy. And we just keep working on those. So, and we've traveled through, we set themes in what we do. So, Loves Me, Loves Me Not was a theme, 5 years ago. And if we got 35 where we're trying to build up, we would have a party, and if we got to 38, we would have a party with karaoke and, different things. So we made it fun. But we're hitting on 75 right now.
Massive.
So it is huge. Our junior gym kids, our under 5s program is sitting up there at an 82, which is like off the charts. And you say, how often do we do it? Continuously. So we set up in our software, we set up an algorithm which takes about 1/6 of our membership who hasn't been questioned for 60 days. It then picks them out, and it picks them across all programs, across all coaches, across all venues. So there's an ongoing change in score. So every Monday morning, Megan sends a newsletter out to the staff and says, hey guys, we hit a 74.5. This is going better. It gives a track of where all the venues are at. And it's a continual focus on how do we do things better.
Yeah, that's awesome to get that really consistent feedback, because it can be difficult to do, I think, as business owners, even like when you're first starting out and going out, is to ask for candid feedback, because if you ask for feedback, you're going to get it.
Yeah.
And
well, we even find we do, again, everything we do manually first.
Yep.
And then we try to work out a way to automate it. Yeah. So, we realize that when people are giving us a 9 or a 10, we then would, Naomi, who you know well, would then cut the comment out, email them back and say, thank you so much for giving us a 10 out of 10. If you'd like to put this comment into Google and give us a 5-star review, that'd be great. And so our reviews went up like crazy because they were already giving us a positive. They were already giving us the comment.
Just so ask for it more formally.
Yeah. And so we'll automate that as now. So as a part of a process. And look, we have it every venue has a weekly meeting. Our leadership team has a weekly meeting. And one of the agenda items is, what are our people saying? Mm-hmm. So we just go through the comments and we go, what can we do about that? What can we do about that? And it pulls together for our monthly meeting. If it becomes a theme, we look at how do we address it, and it moves through.
How do you decide as the founder of the business what you do work on and what you don't? So I assume having such a large team, so I think what you've got between 50 to 80?
150.
150? Okay, I was well off. Staff, there's obviously a lot of things that could always be fixed constantly, and everyone has their own burning problem. How, as the founder, do you decide what is worth focusing on for the next quarter and what isn't?
So this is really interesting because I've changed totally in the last 2 years.
Okay.
So
what did you do?
So what I did, it was very much a committee.
Okay.
So we created a meeting rhythm. So we have daily huddles, so every venue just before the class is a daily huddle. So we then had weekly meetings. So at the weekly meeting, we go through an agenda and we go through our core values. We go through our critical numbers. We go through what are our members saying? What are our staff saying? What is it that's stuck? So then the stucks we tend to look at, and half the stucks are that someone doesn't know how to do it. So we get Naomi to send them a how-to. Other stucks that start to come up in going like either through the staff or through the members, like, for example, our Kedron venue is getting hot. It's hot, and so we're going, right, do we go and put fans in? Are we looking at air conditioning? But we look for themes. And now AI is helping us a bit, because I'll then grab all that. Like, so we get about 5,000 Net Promoter Score responses a year. I'll grab the data, use it, through an agent, through AI, and say, can you help me summarize this data? And so it'll pull out the data and say, here are the common themes at each venue. Here's the common negatives that are coming up. Here are what they're liking the most. We discuss those on the way through. But like right now, I've just finished a document over the weekend that goes out to our June, July. So we do our annual meeting in June, and then we do quarterly meetings, then monthly. And annually is where we really look at what are we going to focus on. So I think that especially with small business, we tend to be like what I was, is I'd go, oh, there's a problem, there's an opportunity, and I'd really be trying to do everything. Most people overestimate what they can get done in a quarter and underestimate what they can get done in a year. So our theory is, and we really lean on a guy called Vern Harnish set up this system in scaling up. And we will come up with 3 to 5 annual priorities for the company. And so we sit there, and so a 2-month prep into this June meeting, and I'll go, right, here is all the data we've got from members, staff, from a business point of view. And I just came out with a list of 13 questions. Say, here's the questions that I need help with. And I'll send it out to our leadership team. And it gives them a chance to think about it. And then we'll discuss it in our May meeting, and then in June, we'll make decisions. But that works really well. What I actually spent a bit of time with Vern Harnish 2 years ago in person.
Like a one-on-one coaching kind of deal?
Yeah, it was like a CEO workshop, which was very funny, because in the room there was like this group that had just gone public at $2 billion turnover, and this group at 800 million, and this group at 150 million, and the little gymnastics club. But it was interesting.
It's the right room to be in, though.
Well, absolutely. And we all have the same problems. It was so interesting. But when I was talking to him. He's going, John, you're doing really well in following these systems, but you're missing one point is some of the people who are really good operationally aren't the best people strategically. So that's where we have our advisory group, or, it might be that it's more important to go and have a coffee with Flynn to talk about your marketing than have your staff decide how to do their marketing right. So then you lean on external experts. And one of his key questions is in the Rockefeller Habits Checklist is, do you have someone on your leadership team or external who are experts in the fields that you need to move the business forward? So that's where we look at and say, how do we get the best people in each of those categories? So in the 2 months, so I get my leadership team to look at these 13 questions, but I'm also looking at my mentors, people internationally that have done this before, to make sure we're getting the best information. And it's the leadership team which will confirm it. And then they'll build out the execution plan. So at the end of the year, we'll have that 3 to 5 annual priorities. And then each quarter, all we're deciding is, what are we doing this quarter to hit our annual plan? And that's what we do. And then each staff member has 3 to 5 priorities. And at the moment, depending on their level of how on top of their own job they are, so they have their own meaningful measures or KPIs. But as they develop, they'll then take on 1 or 2 priorities, which will align with the club priority, which will align with the Delta priority, which will align with the annual priority, and it'll go towards our 3HAG and our BHAG. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
So it's really kind of like a tiered system of going up. And do you find that the 3 to 5 big priorities, are they set in stone as quantifiable, like outputs? Or is it more of like a statement? Like,
no, absolutely measurable.
Quantifiable.
And this is where I think, and again, we're still working on this because our ability to achieve a goal is about how clear. So you look at like Brene Brown, like clear is kind. I could say to you is, hey, do you want to come over and do a podcast? And I don't know where it is. I don't know what time it is. But more importantly is, here's what we're going to be doing in the podcast. And like, so being clear helps us get to success. When I'm talking to a young staff, and storytelling is a big part, I think, of being a leader. And so I'll say, think about this, is that we turn all the lights off of this room and I said, Flynn, go and stand on the Red Cross. You might be really clever and climb around on the ground, and you might feel a bit of tape and you might stand on it and you might get there. But as leaders, what we've got to do is help people be clear. Clear on why they're doing something, clear on what they're doing, and then help them build their own plan to achieve it. Most people can't think through the steps. So we're trying to build a whole, and part of our job is to help our staff grow up as well. We have a lot of young staff who, finish gymnastics and they become coaches, and we're a part of their growth and development. But we want them to be successful. So having a goal, knowing why it's important, knowing what it's going to look like when you achieve it, and then what are the steps for me to get there, that I think makes a difference.
One of the things that I think as an outsider looking in at you is a superpower of Delta, and what you and Megan have built is how consistent, and I'm sure being in the day-to-day all the time, it may not feel like that, but how consistent the messaging is from top down. So obviously I get the opportunity to talk to you, I get the opportunity to talk to Naomi, and I get the opportunity to talk to all levels of people through the business, including making content with people out on the floor who are delivering the programs. And there's common words and common themes that keep popping up, like the Great Blue Ocean and these other concepts that obviously have come from you and have managed to flow through the whole entire business. How do you go about creating that consistency of message of what Delta is about, what language you speak through all levels without it becoming like Chinese whispers?
Yeah, I think when we were smaller, it was easy. Because, we'd sit around here and
one-to-one.
And the amount of times we'd finish training, we'd, go down to Montezuma's and have a tacos and you'd talk. As you get bigger and bigger, it's harder. So we have embedded some things like our weekly newsletter, which talks about, and it's like the way I run a meeting is modeled the way Georgina will run her meeting, is modeled the way Tegan will run her meeting. So we make things easy to repeat. But we also do things like we'll go and do our quarterly retreat. And as we come out of the quarterly retreat, a week later, we'll have our all hands meeting. And then I'll be up there on video. So we'll have 100 people on. We'll have a day one and a night one that people can attend. They can ask any questions at the end, but we'll say, hey, here's what decisions were made. Here's what our quarterly priorities are. But it always goes through and talks about the core values. It always goes through and talks about our brand promise. And it always highlights and celebrates the wins of those people who are modeling it. So we're always saying, hey, I just want to say Wendy's done an amazing job here. And get everyone to thank Wendy for how she's leading the team in that way. And I think that helps to get there. But it's even everything we do has to embed what's most important. So our development plans for staff all embed the core values. Each one of their meaningful measures, instead of KPIs, meaningful measures link through to either a core value or a brand promise. So making sure that everything you do integrates towards the end process is important, but it also takes 10 years.
Takes a long time.
It takes a long time. I think back at when you say, when did we start doing this, I look back at our first times of dealing with developing these systems. Like I read Vern Harnish's book in 2016. I read it about 4 times and then started trying to implement it, and it was hard.
Yep.
So we ended up getting a coach in who made a massive difference for us. It was someone else in the room, and we were talking through, and things like our core values is he came to me and said, Johnny, are you happy with your core values? And I went, yeah, we are spot on our core values.
Yeah.
And I came back going, why'd you ask that? And he goes, well, sometimes I find they're not aligned. And I go, okay, we can do a alignment activity. And we did. And we were totally unaligned. The core values we had at the time were, freedom, responsibility, quality, and professionalism. And
are these the kind of values that you find that founders think are like what the business means to them and what it is and what everyone wants to be, and then pushes those values down?
I think there's 2 parts. I think that you can have, like ours, they were mine.
Yep.
Freedom was really important to me. Responsibility, and they were really important to me. They were my personal values.
Yep.
What I didn't do is check is that the organization we'd become. So when it was me and 4 coaches, that was okay.
Yep.
As it grew and grew. So we did this fantastic exercise, which was Mission to Mars. So again, Jim Collins, I think, started it. Mission to Mars is we said, okay, if we were going to replicate Delta on Mars, who would we take to make sure it's Delta? It's not like the same curriculum or the same equipment. Who would we take to send our DNA to Mars? And so they had to pick people. Then they'd pick, why is it that those people are there? And then they'd said, what are they going to bring to it? And we then looked at not what they brought individually as well, but what was consistent across them. And that's where we started. And then we went out to the kids and say, we have a do what's best to be our best.
Yep. And
the kids would tell a story about, why we're different is because when the coach says to do 20 leg lifts, we get up and we make sure we do 20 at least. We see other people and they cheat a bit. What we do is we do what's best to be our best, and every story we went back and looked at, we then said, so to your point about is a lot of people have aspirational core values.
Yeah.
And I think what Jim Collins said is that it's not something that you have to create. It's something you have to discover. Your core values are already there. You just have to discover them. And they're discovered in the stories. They're not in the aspirational feelings. Like, you look at the company that had honesty, integrity. It was Enron.
Yeah.
Enron, the biggest corporate failure and fraud of all time.
Yeah.
That was their core values. It was aspirational and had nothing to do with what they're doing. And we, every year, so in our June meeting, we'll have the discussion and say, are our core values still core? If we don't have stories about those 5 core values, maybe they're not there anymore. Maybe we've evolved. And so that's important, I think, as an organization grows and develops, to make sure that you're still there. So, we talk to our staff, we talk to the parents, we talk to the gymnasts. And I think that's one of the really cool things about our organization is our core values are alive in the kids.
Yeah.
So we have like cards that the kids can give out so they can earn core values awards. We don't have as a sporting club, we don't have a best and fairest. We have instead of a best trainer, we have a do what's best to be a best award.
Yep.
A teammate comes from little things, big things grow. And so looking at how they support the smaller ones, how they do their basics well so they can scaffold and learn bigger skills. We've changed everything we do, those core values. And the idea is that, I love that on Josh's, a wall, he's got cards from kids that have said, and Josh, they would give him a core values award as the head coach because of how he supports kids across every group. That's really cool when kids are recognizing it and awarding the coaches, and the coaches are recognizing it. And we will have our our annual awards, we do Christmas in July. And the biggest thing we do there is we do our annual core value awards, and all the staff nominate each other. And it's a pretty cool thing. And it talks about, we read out the stories of why they chose Julie for Start With Heart, because if she walks in with a head held high and a smile on her face, no matter what. So, I think that
it's a cool way to like physically operationalize your values. There's the opportunity someone can give one of the values.
It's a lot like marketing. So services marketing involves physical evidence. Mm-hmm. So service is such a esoteric, intangible sort of thing. So how do you give physical evidence to something that doesn't exist? Like, so the card. So every quarter, one of our questions on our quarterly is how we bring the core values to life this quarter. So this quarter, it's like going to postcards, which have them on and the kids hold them up and they get a photo, but they're also going to gibbets. So gibbets that go in their Crocs.
Cool.
Delta core value gibbets. And so we'll just try different things each quarter of how we've done pencils, we've done postcards, we've done business cards, we've done, everything. And we look for different ways to bring it to life.
That's such a cool way as well for the kids, I guess, to have a bit more fun with it, and it changes as well and stays interesting for them. One of the things that you've said to me recently, to kind of take a side tangent, when we last caught up, you were talking to me about how one of the things that you've kind of started doing, I don't know how recently, is looking at when it comes to what Delta's known for and what Delta does, is that if you see other people doing it, you don't want to do it. Can you tell me a little bit more about where that idea has come from?
Yes. So blue ocean strategy, I think you're talking about. So from a Delta point of view, it's not about purposefully being different.
Yep.
It's about, because we know that we will do things and people will copy us.
Yep.
And that's nice in some ways, annoying in others. But what we try to do is we differentiate ourselves. So in Blue Ocean Strategy, in the book, they talked about that a lot of businesses are in the red ocean, where there's blood in the water, and everyone's fighting for the same market.
Yep.
What we want to do is we want to do Blue Ocean Strategy, where we move a bit away from the pack and we say, this is what we do differently. Mm-hmm. We don't teach cartwheels. We teach children. So you'll find a lot of, as time went backwards, is they go, we have 4 beams and we have an Olympic sprung floor. And they were talking about the features. And we started talking about, when a child, you were at the park, remember, with your child, and you saw a kid jump up on the monkey bars and they fell and they went off to the side and they never did activity again. That's what Delta's about. We're about helping children feel confident. And so we started talking about what's the outcome of what we're trying to achieve. And we don't view ourselves as a strictly gymnastics. We view ourselves as we're people
more of as a learning institution, to be honest, more of an educational institution than a sports institution.
Yeah. And we know that the sport and the movement are the tools we use to help develop children. The work we do in I talked about our junior gym kids, so under 5s, the way we help wire up a brain for kids to be successful in academics, in the rest of their lives is incredible. The what is happening in those child's brain at the time, the way Julie designs the curriculum. So it's so purposeful. It's play, but it's so purposeful in everything we do, which helps children develop.
How important, I don't know how important, but what's the most important thing to you when it comes to the Delta brand? Because obviously you've already spoken a little bit about what you're known for and being those differentiators. But as the founder, one of the founders, how important, what are the important things to you about the Delta brand and how you're perceived? And how do you help your leadership team and everyone else make the decisions, even with engaging external people, to understand that brand and protect it?
Yeah. So my view of a brand is that a brand is what people can reasonably expect from you. So if you put a logo, that's not a brand. It's maybe the physical
visual identifier.
Yeah, it's a visual identifier. But your brand is what people can reasonably expect that you will deliver. So anything that you do that reinforces the brand, from the behavior in the gym through to how people speak about you, how you're viewed on social media, everything that you do that supports who you are is good. Anything you do that confuses people, that says, well, maybe they're good, maybe they're not, that's not a good thing to do. So I talk about, like, brand is so cool in that we go from archetypes first, and, our junior gym kids is the archetype of the jester. It's fun. Our Delta Gymnastics, we have the archetype of the hero, or the magician at the high end, where we're looking at how do we present ourselves. And we want to feel professional, at that top end, and at the bottom end, it's fun, but it's also this magical. That's how the magician blends them. So we look at how things are seen, but then we look at from a brand point of view. It's all about how do you position yourself to be what your core client wants. And I think that's really critical. I think a lot of people think, I want to build my business, so I'm going to market to everyone.
Yeah.
And by marketing to everyone, they market to no one.
And as a marketer, I wish more people understood that, because my God, does it make our job difficult when we speak to people. And we're like, oh, cool. So what's your USPs? Like, what's your unique mechanisms? What makes you different? Like, who do you sell to? And they're like, anyone who's got $1. We'll take anyone. I'm like,
and I totally get why people think that, because they want more dollars.
Mindset.
Yeah. What they don't yet understand is how, if you sell to the client, so ours is Amber. Amber's a mum who cares about the development of a child, which everyone does, but she gets that if she had the choice between free play and structured learning, she'd pick structured learning. She tends to understand how that structured learning will help her child.
Yep.
And she's willing to prioritize that, and Amber will look at our marketing and will promote to her, or will explain to her or give her tools to understand what's happening in a child's life. She's actively involved and she wants to understand a child. She's the pivot. She's the person who supports the child the most.
Yep.
So she's looking for help. But when we're doing our work with you, or we're putting something in social media, is we just want to keep on thinking about, we put Amber up on the wall and say, what would Amber want?
Yep.
What is Amber needing now? How do we support Amber delivering on helping her child grow up? And we're sort of, again, we're pivoting, like our Delta tagline was helping kids grow up.
Yep.
And it was interesting is that I think we're about to pivot in our June meeting to looking at we help kids find out just how great they are.
Interesting.
Because I got some feedback from a mum who said sometimes when she sees that, it says she doesn't want to subcontract us to help her kid grow up. Like, she doesn't want to feel as though she's giving up and giving them to us.
Yep.
And that's the evolution of the mum compared to what the Gen Xers were, is she wants to be actively involved. So, so looking at that concept that we're just talking about now, is that we help kids work out just how great they are, fits in better with the mindset of the new Amber.
It's awesome how those little things that people say you can pick up on and be like, interesting. I think it's one thing that I notice a lot of people do is kind of like a set and forget strategy when it comes to their target avatar, like who it is that they're actually doing this for, who are they speaking to. A lot of people do it when they first start a business and go, this is what I'm supposed to do. And then straight away it makes no business decisions are made based on that avatar. But obviously in Delta, it plays a massive role.
And it's interesting, you probably get that I do enjoy a bit of reading or learning.
Yeah.
There's a lady, Katrina McCarter. She's in Melbourne, and her business is marketing to mums.
Yep.
And she thinks I'm the only one who's got it, but we'll have her. There's 2 pages of her book, which gives a checklist of 30 things. And we talk about Amber and say, what's a normal day look like for Amber? She gets up in the morning, helps the kids get ready, drops the kids. She might be heading off to coffee with friends. Then she goes and does this. And so we think through, what magazines is she looking at? What social media does she use? How often does she use it? And really getting clear on who Amber is helps you talk to her.
And make decisions around what you do, and more importantly, what you don't do. Because obviously with marketing, engaging marketing agencies or anyone, whether we live or die is on usually whether we can help you improve your revenue or improve where you're going in your direction or how your brand is perceived. And so we'll often take the easiest possible route to achieve that if we're not given good guidelines. And so when we work with people who have clear guidelines on like what you do and what you don't do, helps you get a little bit, it's more fun because you get more fancy with it, because if you know more about who your person is and what they do and what they don't do, it allows you to think outside the box.
And I think, especially with AI coming in now, I'm seeing more of it going the wrong way. So if you look at it, AI with the wrong brief says, how should I promote a gymnastics club? It takes the average of the world and gives you exactly the average, which puts you right in the red ocean. So you've got to be better at your prompting to say, here is my here is Amber. Here's what she cares about. Here's what she wants.
Yep.
Help me design our messaging through to Amber based on that criteria. And you need to, so I'm seeing more dumbed down to the average. And the people who actually get it or have got the right advice, who knows how to move themselves out into that blue ocean, I think are seeing a great change.
It's really interesting when you talk about that because it's true. And you think about where is AI getting a lot of this information is from blogs, and a lot of blogs are written for SEO, not for actual like information. And so it's drawing out pretty average information to then drive outcomes. But I think where a lot of business owners, and myself included, sometimes get stuck is it gets you from A to B. But it just doesn't tell you whether B was the right B to get to, but it gets you there real quick. So it feels like you're making progress. So for people who can identify that, that's not actually the right B, it is allowing those people to create more of a gap between themselves and other businesses at a more rapid rate, because a lot of businesses are getting stuck in the productivity loop of like, I'm making great progress because I could build my whole entire marketing plan in 2 hours and we've never had that before. But then their marketing plan is the same as everyone else's. They're using the same social media strategies as everyone else. And
I think people don't understand even the term marketing. I think a lot of people think marketing is promotions. And that's just one small, especially in services marketing, like there's 8 pillars of services marketing. We have as a really important part of ours is it's easier to keep clients than it is get new ones.
Yeah.
And your marketing has to also be about how do you create brand ambassadors of the people that you're already servicing. And I don't think I've ever spoken to you about this, but we have this model where we think there are 4 different types of people who might come to Delta. There are people who want to do something, and they go, what will we do this quarter? And, we did footy last quarter, let's do gymnastics. And they tend to stick around for like 6 to 8 months. And then there are people who want to do a valuable activity. They might be picking between piano, ballet, gymnastics, debating, and so they tend to stick around like that 12 to 15 months. Then there are people who go, I want to do a valuable movement activity because I understand how movement really makes the difference. And they might be our 18 to 24 months. Then there are the people who are looking for a Delta movement valuable activity. They've had a friend who said, this is amazing, you should come here. And they're our 3-year plus. But what that does, no matter where they come in, if our marketing can move them around the dial until they get to Delta, so they all stay for 3 years. So the national average of drop rates of churn, of business is about 10.3%. And we're at about 3.8.
Massive.
And we've just kept on bringing it down by looking at how do we market, by looking at how do we service, by listening to our clients. So they say we want this, we go, yes, we should deliver that. Or they say we want this and we go, that would be easier, but maybe it's not what's the best thing for kids. So we just keep on thinking and see how do we do better. Now our next one is how do we get from 3.9 to 3.5, which means if you look at it, that would be the average child staying for over 2.5 years, where currently the national average is the average child is staying for about 8 months. So if we can do that, you imagine the business difference. You don't have to keep on getting new people in.
It's huge.
And that's where the videos that you produce where we're talking about telling our story are not just valuable to bring in new members.
No, they stay front of mind for people who are also there.
Front of mind, but even the people who are already making a decision, it reinforces that they made a good decision. And we talked about how do we get people to stay more, say more, pay more. So they stay more because they feel good about the decision they made. They say more because they tell their friends about what a great decision, and they pay more. Not that that's a big thing, but when I think pay more, it's that they keep on going through our journey. So the
lifetime value.
The lifetime value, and that makes happen. And that's where marketing is so critical, and it's so important that it's reflected through from the work they're doing on video to the messaging that they're seeing on a static ad, through to what is the visuals in the gym, what's the newsletter look like, our email marketing, how does it all fit together so they're getting the same answer all the time?
What's one thing that you think that, one thing that you think that a lot of business owners get wrong at the beginning when it comes to lifetime value or retention of their service?
I don't know. I think that most people don't have enough data, and you can get blinded. The worst person you can lie to is yourself, and I find people do that all the time. They'll something whatever's loudest, so they'll hear someone complain about something. And Megan, my wife, is like this. She is like our client advocate.
Yep.
So a message comes in and says, this is wrong. And she'll go, right, we need to fix this. This is wrong. And I'm going, Meg, there's 6,000 members and one of them said that.
Yep.
And so sometimes you get things out of context. So you've got to be able to have enough data points to make sure that what you're doing is the next most important thing. And get rid of shiny object syndrome. I think I see it all the time. Actually, one of the worst things I see is a young, in mind, anyone under 60 is young, a new business owner gets in there and they're building the business and someone moves from the other business, like in gymnastics, they move for another club. And then they say, at the last club, they did this. And they go, well, we better do that. I'm going, they came to you. They came to you. They didn't like that other club. Stop doing what they were doing over there because everything gets dumbed down to the average and it's poor. So, but getting your data right or getting your inputs right is probably a better way of saying it. An input is verbally. So we have one of our things, a 4S discussion is that while I'm a bit disconnected, I have to make sure every week I'm having discussions with our clients because you can sit in your ivory tower and you lose contact. So making sure that you're getting your inputs right from staff, from junior staff, from your clients, it's really important, I think, in a whole range of different businesses to stay connected because if you look at data and it's the P&L, you're missing 90% of the message.
As I was talking about that, what's one thing that you've done or that's helped you disconnect, unless it's a personality thing, to disconnect a little bit from feeling the highs and lows of customer feedback? Because obviously it sounds like Megan feels that strongly, and I think I resonate with that. So in our business, I definitely see feedback, whether positive or negative, and I'll feel the customer experience like, oh, no, that's not good. But then when you pick up the phone and have a conversation with someone, it's like, it's maybe not as big as it seemed.
Yeah.
How do you separate yourself from that?
Look, it's a great question. I think that you do have to have a bit of a thick skin because the people who are most likely to give feedback are really happy or really unhappy.
Yeah.
And that's why you need to go out and sit in the grandstand and talk to someone because sometimes you're getting this and this and you're missing the stuff in the middle. So I think that it's important that you're getting, you have a thick skin and you're willing to take it and you say, look, good, bad or ugly, how are we going? What are you hearing? What are you like? If I'm in a local photocopies going, what's happening in the local area? What are our competitors doing? How are you feeling serviced by us? And you need to be getting the information. But I do think you have to have a thick skin. It is so easy to be following every single comment. Yep. And you've got it. That's why I look, and we purposefully did this algorithm where we're always surveying. So we get 6,000 data points.
Yeah.
So that helps me.
You got to work off trends.
Yeah. And it helps, but it's still nothing beats personal. Still nothing beats. But you do need to also know what's your best. Where is your core? A lot of people, like for us, people would say, so we're very excited. I've got to drive back to Caloundra now. Our kids are about to win their 21st state club championships in a row. It's really cool that they've been competitively 21st. Yeah, it's one of the
21 years in a row.
Yeah, it's one of the longest.
You're going to give someone else a look
records in Australia. But it's important that a rising tide lifts all ships is our philosophy. So we love team events. And a whole club event means that there are 70 girls up there competing. It's not about one going off to Germany to compete. It's 70 girls. But people would think we're competitive because we've had this competitive success. And I was really passionate and Megan was really passionate about it. But our core business is actually birth to 8-year-olds.
Yep.
That's our core. We do competitive gymnastics because we love it. Yep. And we're passionate and it's inspirational for the kids as well. But we do that as a passion, not as a business. It costs lots of money to support those kids doing that. So I think as business owners, you also need to get away from your pet project and focus on what is your best.
Cool.
And where is it that you can make the biggest difference? What's your skill set matched to Amber's, at your core client? How does that fit best?
So the last question I have for you is you've been running your business now for 30 plus years. What's been your single biggest lesson that you've learned as a business owner? And like what had to happen for you to learn it? What was the outcome of the lesson?
Look, if I had to look at the decisions we made, I do go back to a bit of Jim Collins. He says first who and then what. And I think that there is no way we would have run this business if Megan wasn't around or I wasn't around. A lot of solopreneurs get into business and they're flogging themselves. And I really encourage our business owners they don't have to marry them. They don't have to be their life partner, but they need the right people next to them. And I think getting the second person that you totally trust, that you can be supported by, and they support you, sometimes to tell you that you did a dumb decision. But I totally look back and say, where was our inflection points? And Megan and I working together, and I find when you're finding that person, it's not a carbon copy of yourself. It actually is much better. Much better when you've got complementary skills, complementary focuses, complementary vision, EOS, like the system of...
Yeah, so you've got the visionary and then the implementer.
Yeah. So I remember when that book came out, my sister called and said, oh my gosh, this is talking about you and Megan. And I was the airy, fairy visionary, and Megan was checklists, let's get things done. And I think we've both evolved and developed over the time. But I think as a lesson, and I look at my friends throughout the world in our sort of industry, and I see it all the time. The people that have got their 2IC and they then build to a 3IC, and they build up a group of people who support each other, who are going in this common direction, which is why the BHAG, which is why the 3-year highly achievable goal, when everyone's aligned on the same goals, it makes life so much easier. And I think forget about everything else. Forget about how you do your data, or forget about even your marketing. It's how do you get alignment on what you're going to achieve and how you're going to achieve it and what it's going to look like when you achieve it, then everything else fits in.
With that pearl of wisdom, and John, I could keep asking you questions forever. You have so much experience, and Delta is such a aspirational business in itself because of the impact that you're having with so many people, and as someone who is also a customer of your business, going through your systems and how everyone shows up and the way that other parents talk about it. It is a very aspirational business as a fellow business owner. So congratulations to you and Megan for putting in the hard yards to make it that over the last 30 years and going the distance. It's a long time. It is a long time, but it's pretty cool. Is one of our key staff who's been with us for about 18 years, and her dad always said is do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. And, we work pretty hard, but when you're passionate about it, it makes it a bit easier. So yeah, thanks. Thank you very much.